unfortunately, Iran's insistence on developing a ballistic missile program outside of widely recognized international standards is a longstanding concern, not just of the United States, but of the international community.
We live in a world where daily we are forced to consider pieces of news and then decide if it's real, if it means anything of note, and if it bears more resemblance to rhetoric than anything we should really be worried about. Let that be a guiding light for a moment about news of Iranian missiles taking to the skies marked with a direct shot at wiping out Israel. This from a government that hasn't been heard from in a while and needs to remain in the media mix or risk being relegated to the funny pages. Let's welcome back retired U.S. Army Colonel who served in Iraq, Russia, and at the United Nations, author of Government is the Problem. Colonel Patrick Murray joins us once again on the show. Colonel, it's always a pleasure to have you here. Let's dig right in. Iran missiles with Israel must be wiped out in Hebrew on the side. It's 2 ballistic missiles. They test launched. Okay, look, we know that this is what they want. Is this just rhetoric that they're just throwing it out there to get back into the news, or is this something to really be concerned about?
Well, Ed, it's something we need to be very concerned about. This isn't new from those hardline mullahs in Iran. They've been saying this for a long time, and they fund their frontline shock troops with Hezbollah and Hamas as well. The $150 billion windfall that Obama just gave them is enabling them to do that, and the nuclear deal that has everybody else in the Middle East and the world concerned is facilitating all this. So they just told us what their intent was. On the side of those missiles, Israel must be wiped off the planet. And oh, by the way, they've got plenty of capability. The range that they're firing those missiles easily can reach any targets inside of Israel.
So then you've talked about this in one of your op-ed pieces today where you even mentioned the fact that, hey, how about cutting that nuclear deal with Iran? How's that working out? Let's point out that these missile launches don't violate the deal as it's set right now, but still, this is not something you want to see from a nation that says they want to become actually a real part of the globe right now and they have peace on their mind. This is all just a fraud.
Well, the Obama administration deliberately left anything else out of that nuclear deal that would have killed it. The bottom line is there have been Security Council resolutions from the United Nations against Iran doing these ballistic missile tests since 2010. So the fact that it doesn't violate the current agreement, it violates other agreements, and that's the problem.
All right, let's look at some other problems here, because this is the thing that actually caught me. When I found out that there's an Islamic State op captured in Iraq telling U.S. military personnel that they are planning to use mustard gas against American allies. That is frightening in itself. We know the history of mustard gas. We all know that there's not a nation on the planet that has any common sense whatsoever or deals in law that uses something like this. My question to you then is this also then just something that's thrown out there saying, hey, we got it, guys, you got to be scared about it, or should we really be concerned that they've got it and they'll use it?
Ed, this has already been validated by our CIA Director Brennan and our Director of National Security Clapper. They've said a couple of months ago that ISIS not only has chemical weapons, they're using them on the battlefield in Iraq and in Syria. So the fact that we validated that they have some mustard gas, we knew this, and this is the level to which these troglodytes will stoop to establish their caliphate, and it's something that we should take very seriously.
It's a good word and a light word for troglodytes. I think we just insulted troglodytes all around the planet here. About 90 seconds that I have left. President Obama, the latest issue of The Atlantic, spoke on America's lack of help dealing with the Middle East, saying, quote, "You've got Europe and a number of Gulf countries who are calling for action. But what has been a habit over the last several decades in these circumstances is people pushing us to act, but then showing an unwillingness to put any skin in the game. As part of that, though, the interviewer called them free riders on an interjection. The president said, yes, free riders. He agreed. What does that say, though, when the president is calling some of these nations free riders, if you will? And does he have it right, maybe, in some cases?
It's another example of Obama putting up a straw man. Look, for 7 years, we've been AWOL because this president, our allies no longer trust us, our adversaries do not respect us. This is a great statement if you want to empower the hardline mullahs in Tehran, because that's what that was about. It goes right back to the nuclear deal. It's chiding Saudi Arabia for having their concerns that they're going to have a nuclear-armed Iran next door. And that's what this is about.
30 seconds left. There's a story out there now that we have 22,000 jihadists' names on registration forms. Sorry, but I could never thought of a terrorist group having registration forms for people. This in itself is darkly funny.
Well, you make a good point. They are more than a terrorist organization. They are a budding state, and they aspire to be a caliphate, a single united Arab state under one recognized leader, and that's al-Baghdadi. They've got recruits from over 50 countries shown in that. They are organized, and they're moving forward with that caliphate.
Use them, find them, and bring them in, every one of those 22,000. If they want to go ahead and join ISIS, let's give them something to come home to, like a nice 4x4 cell. Colonel Patrick Murray, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks for joining us. Hey, if you thought the idea of Republicans voting for Sanders was a stretch, wait until you hear where the Democrats might be going, and it has them concerned. That's coming up next, right here on The Hardline.